Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping into a really fascinating legal case out of Taiwan. Now, on the surface, it looks pretty simple. A teacher gets fired for misconduct. But when you dig in, there's a legal twist here that changes everything and has huge implications way beyond just one school. Let's start with this number. 321,678. That's new Taiwan dollars, which is about 10,000 US dollars. And get this is the amount a court ordered a school to pay a teacher the school had already fired for sexual harassment. So that's the big question, right? A teacher gets dismissed for something incredibly serious, but then a court turns around and tells the school, you owe him money. How on earth is that possible? I mean, it sounds completely backward, doesn't it? Well, the answer is all in the details of the legal process. So let's dig in and figure out what happened here. Okay, so the case is Huang Yuhyung versus the National Kuang Fu Vocational School. And the final verdict that came down from the Taipei High Administrative Court, well, it sent some serious shockwaves through the entire education system. The court's ruling was just incredibly direct. It didn't just reverse the suspension or find it improper. No, it ruled that the suspension was legally non-existent. That means, in the eyes of the law, it never even happened. The whole thing was basically built on a house of cards. But to really get what the court was thinking, we've got to rewind. We have to go all the way back to the beginning, to the accusation that kicked this whole thing off. So here's the timeline. It all starts in September of 2020. A fellow teacher, Liao Chuan, files a report. A few months later, in January, the school's Gender Equity Committee investigates and says, yep, the claim is true. And by that summer, the teacher is officially dismissed. I mean, you look at this and it seems totally straightforward, right? A textbook case. And the allegation itself was really serious. He was accused of pressing his lower body against a male student with special needs, right in the middle of a classroom with other kids watching. Now, the teacher's story was completely different. He denied it all, saying he was just trying to keep order in the classroom because the student was being disruptive. So the school investigates, finds him guilty, fires him. Case closed, right? Nope, not even close. The entire case came crashing down, not because of some bombshell new evidence about what happened that day, but because of one single fatal flaw in their procedure. And that mistake? It all comes down to this super important legal idea, conflict of interest. Basically, it just means the person pointing the finger can't also be the one sitting on the judge's bench. The whole system has to be impartial, you know? Otherwise, it's just not fair. Okay, so this is exactly where the wheels fell off for the school. The teacher who made the report, Liao Chuan, was step 1, the accuser. Then she served as step 2, a key witness in the investigation. But, and this is the killer mistake, she was also step 3, a judge, because she was a sitting member of the very same committee that decided the case. The law is crystal clear on this. She had to step aside to recuse herself, and she didn't. And look, this isn't just my take on it. This came from an official review by the National Education Administration Agency. They stated it plain as day. The accuser was on the committee. She was in the meetings, and she didn't remove herself from the decision. This wasn't some tiny little oversight. This was a fundamental breach of due process. So you're probably wondering, how can one person's mistake really bring the whole thing crashing down? Well, it all comes down to a chain of logic that once a single link is broken, the whole thing falls apart. It's because of a core principle in the law, and it's actually pretty simple when you think about it. The legitimacy of any decision is completely dependent on the integrity of the process used to make it. It doesn't matter how strong you think your evidence is, if the procedure you used was tainted, the outcome is legally worthless. And that's what created this incredible domino effect. First domino, the conflict of interest made the committee's decision illegal. That illegal decision then became the basis for the next domino, the school's choice to fire him. And that dismissal was the basis for the final domino, the teacher's suspension. So you pull out that very first domino, that flawed committee decision, and the entire structure just collapses. The court said the suspension had absolutely no legal foundation to stand on. Which brings us back to the money. So remember that number from the beginning? The teacher actually sued for more, over $500,000 NT dollars. The court awarded him the $321,000. So why the difference? Well, the court said he was definitely owed his base salary for that time he was illegally suspended, but he wasn't entitled to other payments, like a research stipend, because those are for work you're actually doing, and since he wasn't teaching, he couldn't claim them. Makes sense. But honestly, the back pay isn't even the biggest part of this story. Not even close. The reason this case is a true landmark is because it signals a massive, monumental shift in how Taiwanese law thinks about what a teacher's job even is. You see, this whole case is really about the legal relationship between a public school and its teachers. And for a long, long time, it was seen one specific way. And now, that's all getting turned on its head. Just take a look at this chart. It lays it all out. The old way of thinking was that firing a teacher was an administrative act. Think of it like a top-down command from the government. The school was acting with the authority of the state. But the new view, which this case cements, sees it as a contractual expression of intent. It's much more like one side ending a business agreement. It puts the school and the teacher on a much more even playing field. And this isn't just some fancy legal theory. The court said it word for word in the ruling. They wrote, "The view that dismissal and suspension are administrative acts has been changed." That's the court on the record saying there's a new reality here. And it's building on another recent decision from Taiwan's highest court. So what's the big takeaway? Why does this matter? Well, it totally redefines the power dynamic. It gives teachers a brand new, more direct way to fight a dismissal. Now they can sue the school directly, not the government. It makes their job look a lot more like a private sector contract. It's a huge deal. So at the end of the day, this case, which all started with one major procedural mistake, gives teachers some powerful new tools to fight back. But it leaves all of us with a really tough question to think about. In this new world, where one slip-up in procedure can completely undo a dismissal for serious misconduct, how are schools going to navigate these issues? And how will they balance the rights of their employees with their absolute duty to keep students safe?